Welcome, everybody. This is What's Up for You, and it is March 11th, 2025. Just as I was closing my eyes, kind of preparing and seeing, kind of what energetically is going on, both in the group and within the kids, there are the kids that of each one of you who have asked a question that come in kind of prior. And then there's also all the kids that might want to come in and be watching while we're having these conversations. So there's a big group today, which is really wonderful. The only thing I want to say to start here today is the energy has been pretty potent over this last, especially towards the end of last week, over the weekend. I know I say this all the time, but I'll say it again here. If you don't follow the Schumann resonance or have a program that follows the Schumann resonance on an app or something on your phone, I'd highly recommend it, because especially for those of you with energetically sensitive kids, you're going to notice when the Schumann resonance is off the charts, when it's high, so are your kids, and maybe so are you. I know that I'm somewhere in the middle between where your kids hang out and where most of, humanity hangs out. And in that in-between state, I mean, I know immediately at this point when that Schumann resonance has gone, off the charts. And I'm sure many of you, have that access too. It's just a sensitivity to that which is unseen, but that which deeply impacts our bodies. It really represents the amount of light coming in. It represents the solar activity and those kinds of things that are coming in. So it all has an impact on our bodies. So just, if you don't have an app for that, there's a lot of good ones out there. I would find one for sure. So Sharon, I know we've got a lot to do today, so I'll keep it short at the beginning. And where do you want to go?
All right, let's go with this first question.
Okay.
I am the mother to a wonderful 7-year-old non-speaker named Jason. Jason has been withholding going number 2 for about 2 years now. He used to go without a problem. Is this something deeper energetically? I'm just wondering how I can support him and provide support in order to give him, my sweet boy, some relief and allow his body to function properly. Thank you.
So again, the physical really typically will represent the energetic. We are energy first. And so, again, let's say it like this. There is so much moving through right now on the one hand, that especially for an energetically sensitive child who feels all that energy moving, he can start to attempt to hold on to that energy that's moving. That can show up as a bodily function, as in, you know, um, holding bowel movements back or those kinds of things. So let's first start talking about, literally start talking to him, like verbally saying to him that it's okay. It's okay. Everything that he's feeling in his body that he thinks that he needs to hold on to, that's stuff that's designed to go now. It literally is designed to move up and out, you might say, or down and out in this case. So I would definitely start by having that kind of communication with him, and then verbally say to him, you're going to give him a little bit of physical support with that, so it's not so hard to release. So anything that you would naturally use to assist with those bowel movements. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is it's not primarily structural or functional, biological, physiological. It's more energetic. And so we're going to want to speak directly to that prior to giving him anything that might help that movement be that much easier for him. But let's let him know that we know, kind of what's going on and help him understand what that process is so that he can feel more comfortable releasing.
My name is Sheila and I'm 39 years old. Over the past couple of months, it feels like just about everything in my life has been going wrong, especially in my relationship with my husband of 15 years. I am truly grateful for what I have, but I'm exhausted. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to shake off this feeling of depression and get back on track. Do you have any advice? Thank you.
Yeah. I wish it could be otherwise, Eula, but the fact is that we're in this place right now energetically where everything that no longer serves is being reorganized. It's kind of being moved away from our experience. And when you're talking about relationships and relationships that are 15 years in the making, or longer, I mean, we're very attached to those relationships. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be. And I'm also not saying that the relationship is kind of a done deal either. What I am saying is asking ourselves the question, asking yourself the question right now, what really serves you and what doesn't serve you? Is this something that has served, a dynamic that has served for a while but no longer does? I'd also ask yourself, when you're having the struggles in this relationship, what's it actually bringing up? What does it remind you of? All of our challenges in life have a tendency to move in cycles. And so long before we have kids, long before we have husbands or relationships, we have imprinted patterns. So I would just ask yourself, what is it that's coming up around this pattern? What does it remind you of? I would work with that a little bit. Even just asking yourself the question is going to bring awareness to the surface. But to me, what you're showing me is there's two major things going on here. One, that which no longer serves is moving up and out of your experience. And two, you and all of us right now have an amazing opportunity to really look at some of those earlier imprints and how we can move those out of our field. Yeah, sometimes just, and like I say, it doesn't have to be complicated. Just knowing what is, just asking the questions, moving into inquiry can be enough to move that out. So I hope that's helpful. I know it's sticky and tricky when it's husbands and wives and kids and all that stuff. Yeah.
In my nearly 30 years as an energy healer, I have worked with 2 medical schools, nursing programs, hospice patients, and countless people both nationally and internationally. I have been teaching sacred geometry and energy medicine levels 1, 2, and 3, a modality I developed that has incredible results. My question is, how can I, as an energy healer and intuitive, assist spellers and their loved ones know how to meld their spirit with their body more consistently? I know with certainty that we are just beginning to understand our capacity as human beings. Thank you for all you do.
So I want to answer this from a couple different vantage points or places. One, it's really highly important, especially you as an energy worker, that we do our own inner work. And I'm not saying that you don't. It looks like you've done plenty of that as well. But every time we're amping up, you might say, our vibrational capacity, especially when we're moving into the fields of working with kids that are as energetically sensitive as those on the spectrum are, they're going to constantly invite us to broader aspects of ourselves. And not just a theory anymore, but my awareness at this point really is as far out as we go, is as far in as we're going to need to go. So you want an anchor within yourself for all of that energy that you're going to be accessing from the kids. The other thing I will say is when we connect directly with these kids, they do know exactly what they need in order to help them integrate or to help them spell, whether they're ready to spell. So if the focus is really on making that telepathic connection with the kids and really listening very deeply as to what they're requesting, that's going to be 100% easier to move forward. It's when we go in from a certain perspective and say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to help. All of that can be really helpful until it's not, right? And the minute that it's not helpful, you're going to start be feeling that in your body. I don't want you to feel that in your body. I want you to be able to do this, for the rest of your life, if that's what you want to do. So first, just making sure that you are paying attention to what arises within yourself and working with that. And two, making sure that you're always going to the kids directly and saying, okay, I want to help you with spelling, or I want to help you with this, that, or the other thing. Where do we go from here, kind of thing? And then have that information come back and go from there. If it's a co-creation, you guys are going to go from here to eternity, and it's just flipping amazing where they can take us. So does that answer the question? Yeah. Yeah, those two things. I will say I have this comment with people, all my own clients and people all the time, where these kids can take you on quite a ride. I mean, I'm living proof of that, where you go into multidimensional realities, you go into different forms of communication, be they spelling or telepathy or light language, or there's all kinds of places and spaces that they are more than capable of taking us. The challenge becomes when we don't have any place to integrate those experiences. It's kind of like having a Kundalini experience or having a big wide opening, and then not having any place to anchor that or put that within our human bodies, you might say, our human experience. That energy will just kind of float around. And I know you've already done some of this work because of the success that you're saying you're getting. That anchoring is happening in the physical world, which is awesome. So, okay, Sharon, where are we going?
All right, this next question is, I was recently told by an intuitive person that Morgan, my son, might have difficulties with his electrical system, especially electricity in his brain seems to be scrambled. I would like to ask if there's anything I can do to help him resolve this issue, or if there's any insight about this, either from Morgan.
So, quite honestly, right now, we are all having, you might say, short circuits of our both electrical and magnetic systems. That's part of the reason why, as I was talking earlier today, that Schumann resonance and having some awareness of that is really important, because that gives us a little bit of insight into what's happening kind of electromagnetically within our energy fields. So, and that whole electrical system and the emotional nature of that electrical system can also be very much heightened right now, but with kids on the spectrum, it's always heightened, because that emotional body is the first body that most kids on the spectrum can come into some form of an interface with. Like when kids on the spectrum are attempting to integrate, one of the most amazing things that happens for them is they can connect with the emotional body. One of the most challenging things that happens is they connect with the emotional body, right? It's, and the reason I say it that way is if you're connecting with the collective emotional body of humanity right now, it's pretty messed up. You know, it's pretty chaotic. It's pretty all over the place. If you're connecting with the emotional body of let's say, a parent who is recently received a diagnosis for their child of autism, doesn't it make sense that that emotional body system is in fear, worry, and concern, confusion, overwhelm, whatever, right? So we've got somebody whose capacity is to connect with the emotional body, that kind of electrical system, and also that electrical system is not always the best place to connect, and yet that's kind of the place where they do connect. So there's that piece of it. The other piece of this is, and I'm just going to put this out there because I literally just learned about this guy and I've been talking with him for, probably the last week off and on. I have a client who's getting ready to go and see him at the end of the month. There's a guy named Dr. Malilo who does something called brain balancing. And he's got a clinic in New York, I know, but I've just been watching some of the information on him. And as I'm kind of tapping into your son here, and I'm watching that neurological wiring, he might also be somebody that you just want to check out for that kind of information, or at least Google him. He's got a TED Talk, I know, on YouTube and things like that. So he might be a good resource for you as well. But it's all about neurological balancing, and for kids diagnosed on the spectrum who are connecting in at multiple different levels, mental, emotional, levels of their parents or the people around them, that in and of itself can really short circuit the neurology.
I am the mother to an amazing 12-year-old non-speaker, Jaden. During the past year, we have learned so much about him and who he really is thanks to Spelling to Communicate. How can I support him and help us both heal from past traumas that will allow us to be our best selves? The past couple of weeks, he is showing signs of struggles and has added some possible OCD tendencies or possible motor loops. I appreciate any input you can give on any of these situations. Thank you.
Again, I don't know any way around this other than some good old-fashioned kind of inner child work. And what I want to say is that the beautiful thing about having children who are as energetically sensitive as autistic children are is they are absolutely functioning from a field of oneness. And so especially you as their parents or you as caregivers, they are interfaced with you in a way that is really pretty profound. I mean, there is no difference between your mental body, their mental body, your emotional body, their emotional body. And because these souls come in a fairly, I'm going to say in a fairly clear way, souls come in a fairly clear way. When they get here, a lot of what they're doing is mirroring back either the environment that they're in or the lineage that they came into, or humanity at large, depending on how big their energetic fields actually are. So the beautiful thing about doing some inner child work for yourself is that that inner child work will have an immediate impact on your child. So I learned this, the I'll say the hard way. But, on the one hand, part of the reason I was able to connect the way I do with kids diagnosed on the spectrum is because I was up and out of my body, most of my childhood. And so because of my own traumas. And then as I met them, and they would say, they would literally, once I had that telepathic communication, they would say, leave your stuff at the doorstep. They would say that all the time. Those of you who are spellers or who are communicating with the kids in this way, that they're asking you to be as clear as possible in that process. But we all are human beings and we've all got imprinted in different ways. Whatever our early imprinting was is nobody's fault. I mean, it's literally a soul going, hey, I think I'll take that kind of ride and learn these kind of lessons. And then, of course, we get here and it's like, it's like, what did I choose? Who did I choose? What the heck is going on? So, it's not our fault, but it is an opportunity and you might say even let's keep it an opportunity. It is an opportunity to work through some of our earlier struggles and challenges. And what we'll notice is that almost immediately will soften the energy dynamic for energetically sensitive kids. It's one of the most profound things I've seen throughout the years. And I will say, you guys have all heard me say this before, but I give this plug every time. The Presence Process by Michael Brown just happens to be my go-to for inner child work. But there are any number of, one of the other things I will say that, especially right now, having done a lot of the presence process and been through that cycle several times now, one of the things I'm doing now is I just find a inner child hypnosis on YouTube, click it before I go to bed at night and just let it roll so that the subconscious is being loved and nurtured and that kind of thing. Yep. So I believe me, I'm all for doing it as easily as possible because, when you first start digging through some of that emotional body work, it's not easy, because it does have a tendency to bring up some of those old feelings. So, and just as a side note, I just saw this come across. Shannon, spellers mean children who are typically non-speakers have other means of communicating with the outside world. One of those is spelling, where they use a board to spell out any of the words that they might want to share with people. There's a lot of different spell to communicate, different types of devices and stuff like that. So yeah, a spelling device is a little bit different than, a speech device is a little bit different than a spelling board, because the device usually will have pre-programmed information in the device that the child can choose from, where the spelling board is assuming competence in spelling and demonstrated competence in spelling so that they can spell out ultimately whatever it is their little heart's desire. So
As a therapist working with children, many with ASD, what was the best lesson you learned, Suzy, when your practice began to move in a direction that was outside of the box, specifically the growing pains of trusting your path and cultivating the art of listening to the guidance within? Thank you.
it's so interesting that you asked this question. I'm just in the process of starting a new book, and the person who's helping me with that book, Sandy Sedgebear, is staying at my house right now. So we've been having all of these kind of conversations about, some of those earlier, just what you just asked. So thank you for that. I think you must be picking up on our energy and hanging out with us here. So That's a good question. God, there have been so many, there have been, I've learned so much. I continue to learn so much from these kids. I think at the very beginning, I would say it has to be the lesson that I learned is to kind of continually go back to them, continually go back and check. And part of that was with a speech pathologist background first. It was all about statistics. It was all about data collection. It was all about those kind of things way back in the day. And initially, that really carried over. And I think that really helped me. So if I got some information telepathically from a child, then I would immediately go back and say, okay, I would verbally say it out loud. This is what I received. Is that accurate? Is that true? I mean, take that step to ask that question, because even if that child has not learned to spell yet or does not have any form of more standardized kind of communication, when you say to a child and you're assuming competence and you say to a child, hey, I think I just got this message telepathically from you, they will let you know through their body language alone. I mean, it's either a big grin, their eyes light up, they move toward you instead of away from you. They'll let you know one way or another, that that was a yes. So, and I think that's what actually helped me trust over time. The other thing I will say is there is nothing better on the planet, to me anyway, than not having a parent or a professional tell me that I'm good at my job or tell me but to have one of the kids tell me that, whether they spell it out. And I just have had so many kids over time say, you're the one that can speak for me. Nobody else is allowed to speak for me. You can speak for me. I mean, it really hits me every single time. And I think that's developed, we're developing relationships here. And you're developing a relationship with somebody who usually nobody has taken the time to really get to know. A lot of people speak over these kids, even when they're spellers, quite honestly. It's like a lot of people just speak right over them. Um, and when you actually let that child know that, number one, I know you're in there. Number two, your voice in this is more important to me than anybody else's voice in the mix. They start sharing with you. And if you let them know that you want to get that right as often as possible, they will, they'll let you know that you got it right. Yeah. And then over time, it gets really easy to trust. I will say sometimes, just like everybody, you kind of go, okay, I've heard this over and over again. It's been lots of clients. And so, you know, I know how this is going to go. We get cocky. We get kind of like, okay, I've heard this a million times. So I know the general direction. And what I also love is when a kid literally will stop me and go, slow down. Sometimes that's what I hear in my head. Slow down. Just because you've heard it like that before doesn't mean that that's the way it is today. Um, and then a kid will usually say, let me show you what I can do. Let me show you what my skill set is that might be a little bit more unique than what you've heard in general. So yeah, stay open and ask them lots of questions, and the trust will absolutely be there. So,
My son Peter, who is autistic, 24 years old, has never spoken and only communicates with gestures. We just started spelling to communicate about 4 months ago with a wonderful practitioner. I am desperate to know Peter and know his thoughts and desires. My question is, am I doing the right things for him? And is there anything I'm not doing that would help him? And is he happy? Is he excited to be spelling so he can be heard? And any information would be greatly appreciated.
I love I love this question, and this question is asked probably more often, than any other one. It's like, especially when you have an individual that or a child that you haven't been able to ask these questions to, it's like that's it. This is human nature. And I want to I want to say something to you because he's just saying it to me. As much as you feel like this might be the very beginning of your journey into communication with him through spelling, which, yes, he is extremely excited about, almost so excited about that he's a little concerned sometimes that his excitement might side rail his desire to be able to be regulated in his body enough to spell, but that's all going to come. So when you see him kind of almost get, uh, especially in that first few months of spelling, it's really common that the kids are so excited about spelling and about trying to get their own voice out in the world to be able to share that they kind of amp up a little bit. So don't worry about that, is what he's saying. That's going to all regulate itself out. You don't have to be concerned about that at all. We're just going to be patient with that. That said, he's also saying that you may see this as the very beginning of your communication journey with him, because this is when you're going to first get to hear him. And he wants you to know that he's been hearing you from day one. He's been interacting with you and feeling you and knowing you and connected to you, connected to thoughts, connected to feelings, like we were saying earlier. So anything that you want to share with him, you can share it through the feelings that you have for him. You can share it for the thoughts that you want him to pick up. You can verbally say anything that you want to say to him, assuming competence. And that right there is going to let him know that that connection has been made. He's made it with you from the very, very beginning. I know it doesn't always look like that, especially for kids diagnosed on the spectrum, because they can look like they're in their own worlds. They can look like they're not participating or even interested. And for a parent, that can be really hard. That's the connection you want more than anything in the world, is with your kid. He just wants you to know that he's been there the whole time. He's with you. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can feel that one too. And that's, ooh, okay, fair enough. Mm.
My child's name is Noble. He is 8 years old. My question: what are your spiritual gifts? I am new to this. So far, I cannot tell if you're telepathic, but I hear you making a lot of noises at night. I'm wondering if you're talking to someone else.
What a great name for this kid. Let's start there for your kid. Noble. Noble, nobility, to be noble. What does that mean, And it, I don't think that that's an accident with this one. There is I'm going to say, like, a nobility to him. There is this, um, he is noble. So there's that. As far as I can tell, and he's kind of shaking his head in agreement, all of these kids are telepathic, right? There's not, I mean, we're talking thousands of clients over the last, 25 plus years or whatever. They're all telepathic. But so are we. We're all telepathic. We've just been conditioned out of it. And so, yes, let's already just assume that telepathy is there. And it's why right now it's coming out into a mainstream audience, through the telepathy tapes or those kinds of things. It can't come out into a mainstream audience until humanity understands that, well, maybe we are that ourselves, right? It's always known internally before it can be known externally, you might say. So let's look at what else. And one of the things that Noble wants to share here is, although through a more neurotypical lens, we look at spiritual gifts as things like, telepathy, or the ability to heal, or the ability to, yeah, anything. When we have a more neurotypical framework for our neurology, we see everything through the lens of separation. These kids see everything through the lens of unity. So what we perceive as some amazing gift, it is amazing through our lens, but through the lens of oneness, it's just kind of what is. It's just a matter of fact, right? And as Noble and other kids like him, meaning very high frequency, high energy, high frequency, high vibrational beings, as they come into this world with their nobility, or with their capacity, or with their just the vast information, literally just them being here is altering the human experience. He's asking me to just give you, uh, I'm saying it this way just because you said that you were new to this. So um, that's why he's giving it to me like this as an explanation. If you take a very bright light and you bring that bright light into a dark room, right? That bright light is going to illuminate that room. And when it illuminates that room, you might see the dust bunnies under the sofa, or you might see something, whatever. You'll see where something's out of place, where you might not have seen that before. This is what Noble is saying. He's going, this is kind of how he and others like him come into the world. They come in as this extremely bright light. And as they come in as that extremely bright light, they shine a light on that which is seeking to evolve. They shine a light on that which will very quickly, especially now, is becoming kind of evident, right? So one of the things that he just keeps saying to me is his spiritual gift to you or to people around him is literally him being here. That through his lens, that is enough. He also has all of these other skill sets that are just part and parcel for living in that field of oneness. He is telepathic. He can pick up on vibrational information that is mental thought, emotional feelings, even some physiological kinds of information that might be going on in the people around him. And he's just saying to you that first things first, just him being here is really one of the best gifts, that he could have given his family, given his lineage. And he holds that with a certain degree of nobility, I guess is the best way I can say it. Yeah. You didn't pick that name for no reason, and he seems to have given it to you. So the name would match the energy. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a registered behavior technician who works one-on-one with 8-year-old Raiden, helping him throughout his school day. He starts silently crying while staring straight ahead. I thought it might be an overload of emotions and maybe he misses someone. Can he tell me why it happens and what else I can do to help?
Wow. Raiden's a really beautiful, he's a soft-hearted soul. He really is, just like we were saying earlier, very tuned into emotional body energy. And so this is one of the things that if we know kind of at a blanket level that he really is soft-hearted, he has tons of empathy, although, for a lot of these kids, it doesn't look like they do because they're off looking at other things. But he's a feeler. He's feeling all the time. So that staring out in front of him, it's like he's tuning into an emotional body field. Sometimes that emotional body field is the emotional body of the other kids in the classroom or the energy of the classroom. Sometimes that emotional body field is, whoever just dropped him off, his parent, went home and maybe he or she, his mom, is kind of having a day. He's picking it up that way. He can also be, and this is one of the things that he's talking about a lot, he can also be picking up the more collective emotional body field where, you know, humanity's in a place right now where we're confused, we're a little overwhelmed, and so it's the way he shows it to me, it's like he's staring into like an emotional body realm. He's staring into the field of either someone or a group or a collective's emotional body. And when he does it, it's not so much that he's even crying for them per se, although that energy is being processed through his body. It's like for us, if we, we hear a song that reminds us of something, or a challenging time in our life, and all of a sudden our bodies are crying, we're leaking, or our tears are coming out before we're ever thinking about having that emotion, right? It's just happening. And for those of you on the call that are highly energetically sensitive, like I am too, some days you're crying and you don't even know why. It's like it's just coming out. There's nothing you can pinpoint about that. Um, he's like this. He's like this. So one of the things I would do first and foremost is I would talk to him about how beautiful that empathy is. Most of us look at that and we go into fear, worry, and concern. Why are you crying? What's upsetting you? He's coming at this more from, this is one of my capacities. That level of empathy is a capacity. So, wow, you really have the capacity to feel so deeply what other people are feeling. I wonder who you're feeling today. And you might, depending on how you communicate with him, is it a person? Is it a group? Is it the world? I see him like literally like, here's a person, here's a group of people, here's a picture of the world. Which one of these are you tapping into today? You know? And when he says it's the world, you can literally say back to him, oh my gosh, that's a lot of energy to feel. How are you doing with that? You know, how are you doing? You know, um, that first, let's assume competence. First, let's acknowledge what the gift actually is. Let's get information about how he's utilizing that gift, because the more we talk to him about it from the vantage point of capacity, the less frustrated he's going to be in not being clearly understood as to what he's actually doing, right? He's I would say he's an emotional body processor. Yeah. Some of us are physical body processes, some of us are mental. He's an emotional body processor, and he's good at it. He's really good at it. He's one of those kids that you'd love to have around, because the minute his emotional body goes off a little bit, if we kind of go, ooh, what am I feeling? What's going on for me today? It's like he's probably picking up something that we're not even quite capable of picking up. So I would go at it like that. You're going to see a lot more engagement with him just coming at it from that vantage point. Or at least that's what he says. So we'll give it a go. Yeah.
I'm autistic and finding during solar flare activity, I'm getting pain or pressure in my head and eyes, and my hearing gets sensitive, like everything is too loud. Is this is this to do with needing to integrate more? I am seeing my son is also affected at the same time, covering his eyes and holding his head, and is wanting to be home a lot. He is finding it challenging to focus with learning, spelling, and either wants iPad time or to be in nature. He
Yeah.
seems happy, but is there anything else he may want to support him in integrating?
Yeah, yeah, all those symptoms that you described, absolutely symptoms of solar activity and shifts in Schumann resonance, all of that, you know, everything where we're kind of getting blasted with this high frequency plasmic kind of energy. It is literally rewiring our biology, neurology, psychology, right? So no matter how you slice it, and if you're energetically sensitive like you and your son are, you're going to be tuned into this. You're going to be able to feel it where other people may not. The average Joe, you know, that's more grounded out in the world, living that life, may be completely oblivious to this stuff going on. If we're energetically sensitive, we're picking that up. A lot of the reason why there's head pain, I've got the same thing, ringing in the ears. Sometimes the ringing in the ears will be so loud that it's distracting. So eye pain, um, pain in the head, ringing in the ears, that whole, let's say, crown, third eye, throat, and then also the ears. That aspect of our sensory system is being upgraded. And for those of you who are on the spectrum, you don't really need that upgrade. What you're needing is more having that energy be more anchored in the body. So one of the things that, and the reason a lot of the kids go to iPad time or outside time is it kind of just distracts the mind. You know, it just, you know, I play solitaire, you know, it's like I'll get on and I'll play solitaire for, 2 hours sometimes. If the Schumann resonance is really high, because it just gives my brain something to do that's kind of monotonous while all of those changes start happening. That said, anything that you can do to be lower in your body, right? Anything you can do to kind of clear out more of that lower chakra energy, because the two of you are as sensitive as you are, We can definitely do that through inner child work, but what you guys are showing me is something as simple as your solar plexus, your sacral, and your root. For highly sensitive individuals, those will usually be the culprits. And so something as simple as, what color does my solar plexus need today? And whatever comes up, we don't have to analyze it. It's like, okay, and we can say the solar plexus is supposed to be yellow or whatever. So, but don't go with that. Just literally, what color do you want? What color do you need? Just move that frequency through that solar plexus. What color does the sacral? What color does the root? It's just going to move enough energy so that you all can settle a little bit more further into the body, which will make it that much more functional when you go outside and, in nature, or when you kind of check out, or when he checks out, using the devices or those kinds of things. The other thing I will say is, like, tree hugging right now, it's good for all of us. Those roots that are, like literally planted down in the ground, doesn't do any of us any harm to go literally hug a tree these days. So, yeah, but for you guys, that it's interesting because you just immediately show me color moving through those lower chakras. That's in and of itself is going to invite some of that energy that's typically all caught in the higher chakras, the heart up. It's going to invite that to come on down. Yeah, probably making it more comfortable.
I am autistic and I haven't yet learned to regulate myself. My question is, can you help me regulate, help me connect with the part of me who is asking for help?
What's the first name of this person?
Ben,
Ben. Okay, great. Ben, I'm just going to look at your image since you're front facing, if that's okay. So, Ben, I want to start somewhere else with you, which is a little bit with light language, because you're beautifully aware and trying to figure this all out for yourself. A lot of the information that you take in can be fairly mental about these things, like you're trying to figure it out here. I'm going to just speak a little bit of light language first. And to me, light language is just a language that dials up a little bit so that I can say a few things to you to help with your integration that you won't put into your head, right? It's like we're kind of bypassing the head. So just give me 1 second here and then we'll kind of step this down a little bit. Okay. Okay, dere quiero comentar, dere sendiri kuo kiara kem, sendiro dere quiero menu sandri go kia koe kem and jen son semere weken. Atadio wakia kama. See if you can get it to drop from head to heart and then from heart to gut. Dere keko kukemen jen jua. You just focus on that while you're hearing the light language or while the light language is going in. So head to heart. And then when you feel it like stabilize a little bit in the heart and the heart starts opening up, don't stop there, drop it down into the gut. Okay? Okay, kera kana metari ue sandari kyoko kinja. Atari mani ue sim. Atari kyo akyam. Keep going. Atari kyo akya. All the way down. Tari kyo kyo koko akya kamen jenju esam. Might be the first time that that gut place is the primary place for you. Sandari kyoko kue kikine mandari ue sindadaya. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Yeah. See if you can make your belly move when you breathe. Dari kyoko kue kimen. Got it? There, right there. Just you got a little taste of it right there. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm literally going to give you a practice, Ben. Andarikyo kokoeka kamen jinja joy sandarikyo kokamen jinjoy sinda tarikyo. Okay, all three. Okay, kyokyo koekem. So your process is over and over again. It's in my head. I move it to my heart. It's in my heart. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to breathe into that space just long enough until it starts filling up. You got a nice big heart. We're going to drop that energy right down into the gut. And once you get it start building up in the gut, let's just see if when you take that in breath, that inhale and exhale, that you can literally move your stomach. This is a very physical practice for you, but you're asking for a very physical level of embodiment. Yeah, unless I'm off on that. If I am, then let me know. Does that make sense to you, Ben? Okay. Sharon, can I unmute Ben just for a second? I just want to ask him, is that all right with you, Ben?
Yeah, I'm unmuted and I go by Benjamin. Thank you.
Benjamin, thank you. So Benjamin, how did that feel in your body? Like, how did that feel? I just need a little bit of feedback to see if I can course correct
Warm,
it.
fuzzy. I felt the heart expansion. I feel my gut really warm.
Okay.
Stomach move when I breathe.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so yeah, so if you'll just play with that over the next couple weeks, I think what you're going to notice is you're going to get much more inhalation and exhalation all the way down into the gut. And once you've got that, you've kind of got a hold. It's like you've got a hold on the more subtle aspects of yourself. We're drawing those into the body. Yep. So play with that and then we'll see how that goes.
Thank you. I had a dream about that this morning.
Oh, see, you're already preempting it. Yeah, it's like yeah, that's probably giving me the information to give you. So thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our Mubster is 6 years old. He is considered a non-speaker. However, we randomly hear a word or phrase produced. I I am wondering if he has any information I can share with his mom to help him or to help her cope with the most recent diagnosis and with all of the gut grief she is experiencing. Thank you.
First and foremost, let her feel that. I mean, encourage her to feel that gut grief. That's very real. And without that gut grief being processed in one way or another, it's going to be that much more challenging for her son. So let's honestly, as the most important thing that you can do for both of them right now is to be an empathetic ear, a shoulder to cry on, letting her feel through. It doesn't mean that any of that is going to stay that way, but it is really important that she be able to feel through that information. Yeah, if she just tries to bypass it and kind of get on with life, so to speak, it's always going to be in the background and it's always going to hinder the progress that he can actually make.
I'd appreciate any advice regarding what you see energetically with my feet. They started to hurt last June. Since then, I have lived in pain along with inflammation. Sometimes the pain goes up into my joints, but they got better since I started treating them with a quantum healing energy modality, releasing some pain in my body, but my feet still in pain. Thank you.
So what I'm hearing, it's scary to be here. It's scary when you're energetically sensitive and to whatever degree you are, which you are, it's it's almost like what you show me energetically is there's the energetic vibrational signature of you coming down through a body, there's the vibrational signature of the planet or the earth that's kind of trying to come up to meet you. And your feet, even your lower legs, your calves, or even up to the knees, is kind of like a barrier between what's trying to come up to meet you and what's trying to be met. And I think there might be a little bit of a metaphor in that as well. I would start looking at when you're energetically sensitive, when we're energetically sensitive, and it can be challenging. It can be even more challenging to be here than if you're really connected to that earth energy and that kind of thing. One of the things that just keeps coming up in this question is just asking the question, in which ways have you been supported in your life, and in which ways have you simply not really ever been fully supported in your life? And so in those ways that you haven't been supported in your life, can we have a little bit of love, compassion, and understanding, both for yourself and for the people who just couldn't support you because they didn't quite fully understand? As you start to play in that energy, what you're going to do is you're going to start inviting the earth energy to come up and support you. And as it comes up and supports you, some of that inflammatory response, which is your body basically trying to protect itself, trying to support itself, that might just start balancing out a little bit. Doesn't mean you don't look at inflammation and things like that around in other ways, but if we're looking at it strictly energetically, those are the questions that I would be asking myself under the same circumstances. Where have I been supported? Where haven't I been supported? And can I have love, compassion, and understanding for that lack of support? Yeah.
This one is Shannon is seeking clarity on what avenue to look for creating income. Does she look at her book, stickers, and coloring book and work on the marketing, or does she work on business that is health focused through coaching, energy healing, and offer modalities? Or is there something else she needs to consider? She has tried to do both of these at the same time, but feels like she's just spinning from one thing to the next and not really making progress on growing anything.
The coaching part came up first, so that's something to consider. But the other piece is, and I know when you're, trying to create something for yourself, trying to sustain yourself in a particular way, most people have been taught to move into some form of action first. Part of that spinning that you're talking about, let's settle the spin first. Like, what is that spinning? What does that feel like in the body? Where is that anchor point for you? Is that anchor point lower in your body? Is that anchor point a connection to the planet? If you'll ask that question first and get that spin anchored, then whatever you do next is going to be much more, it's gonna feel much more solid, and it's gonna give back to you in a much more solid way. So we can say that this is about what direction to go for financial support and for contribution to humanity and all these other kinds of things. We can say it's about that, but the very fact that you said that it's kind of creating this spinning energy, that's what's coming up. So let's address the spin first. And finding things, what helps to regulate that spin first, and then moving into that coaching, because I think a lot of the coaching that you're going to be doing is it's not mental coaching, it's not even just emotional coaching. What you're trying to step into is really energetic coaching, like the energy. And so you're kind of learning that preemptively. in your own experience. So, and nothing better than teaching what we've learned through personal experience. Yeah.
All right. My son-in-law, Alec, 30 years old, has chronic abdominal discomfort and has been trying to figure it out with allopathic doctors and physical therapy. Can you see if this discomfort is tied to any energetic patterns, family trauma, or past life experiences? Thank you.
The very first thing I see when I go into the gut here is it's like a tensing up and a little bit of frustration, irritation, anger, that kind of energy. And it's almost like this tightening down. And so let me see something else here. It's kind of multi-layered here because it is true that in his physical gut, because he has, you might say, taken on this pattern or something like that, he does have discomfort in his own physical gut. You know, it's not just energy. It's like it's almost it's not an ulcer or something like that, but it is kind of like that heat in the gut, and it's all around this tightening up, you know, hunkering down, like frustration. That particular pattern, emotionally, energetically, can also run down through the lineage to one degree or another. And you know, we all know that, you know, in most families, you know, certain emotions are allowed, other emotions are not allowed, right? You know, it's like frustration, anger, irritation might not be something that, you know, was comfortable, you know, for people in this lineage. I mean, it's in some ways that's um, goes without saying. I think it is for a lot of people. But this is what he's just showing me. It's not, I don't see this as much from past life in that sense. I see it more like I came in as a soul. I came into a lineage that has this particular pattern of, you know, maybe not quite being able to fully process anger, frustration, irritation, that kind of thing. And I think it's taken its toll in other people in the lineage too. It's just feels uncomfortable. It's like it's an emotion that is hard to digest. You might say, we might say it like that energetically. So again, just having that awareness and also just saying to him, you know, just because it belongs to the lineage doesn't mean that he has to hold on to that. You know, he can bring something else into the mix if he would like to. But anywhere in, well, let's just anywhere in the lineage where this particular pattern has run down through the generations, and it's specifically around an inability to fully process anger, frustration, irritation, that kind of stuff. Anywhere where that's created excess heat in his stomach and in anybody else in the lineage, let's pick all that up and clear that out of the fields of the lineage, out of his field. The whole pattern, let's just pick up the whole pattern and get it to whatever degree we can, and let's return it to before it was ever created. Just so we have a little bit of wiggle room for awareness around this, movement around that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, last question. My son is 9 years old, autistic and non-speaking. We just started spelling to communicate in January. I'm trying to figure out what are the best first steps in regulating myself, my emotions, and how to be fully present. I know that that is a barrier in connecting with my son to our fullest potential. Thank you so much.
Well, again, there are multiple layers we can look at this at, but again, just immediately love, compassion, and understanding. You know, you'll hear me say that 90 million times if you come on these calls or if you show up in any of the other ones. And the reason that that's so important is, again, it's not what arises, it's how we meet what arises. So for a parent who hears, we're learning to spell, and I know that spelling is going to be either helped or hindered by what's running through me in any given moment, we immediately go into fear, worry, and concern. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's like, am I going to mess this up? You know, am I going to make it harder for my kid instead of easier? Right there, right there. Whew, that's a lot of pressure to put on myself, right? That's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. I'm just going to invite myself to a little love, compassion, and understanding. It's like, it's okay. I'm allowed to feel what I feel. A lot of parents, when they hear that too, they kind of try to stop feeling. You know, that's not a good plan either, because that I stop feeling, it goes into the subconscious or into the unconscious. And let me tell you, that stuff doesn't stay there for very long. It's going to bubble back up, and then you're going to hit that. So love, compassion, and understanding, number one. Number two, any work that you do on behalf of your own inner programming, your own inner, conditioning, doing that separate from the time that you're working on spelling with your kids can also really help as well. Yep. And it helps because it brings deeper love, compassion, and understanding to those parts of ourselves that, like I say, nobody's fault. I mean, nobody said, hey, pick me. I want to be, inundated by, an alcoholic father, or I want to be an unavailable mother, or, none of us kind of went at a human level. That's what I choose. Pick me, pick me. No, the soul may have picked certain experiences. But once that soul gets here and is having a human experience, we got to have a little love, compassion, and understanding for what it chose. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I hope that is helpful. Yeah. Are we good? Do we get them all, Sharon?
We got them all.
I know we went over. Let me just see if there's anything else that wants to be shared before we call this a day. Yeah, it's what's interesting. I don't know if Benjamin's still here or not, but that whole process that we went through with Benjamin also looks like a really good process in general. You know, it's like, where are we? Just asking the question, am I in my head? Am I in my heart? Usually we're in our heads. Okay, I'm in my head. Great. Let's see if we can let that come down to the heart. Yep. And if we can come down to the heart, how does that feel? Does it open things up? And if it opens things up, great. Can we move it down a little bit further in our body just so that we can feel okay being in our bodies? Doesn't it make sense that if we feel okay being in our bodies, that we might be demonstrating to energetically sensitive kids everywhere that it's okay to be in theirs? Yeah. Yeah. So it's just a nice practice. All right. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Addressing the use of light language very briefly. We'll do this another time. Light language is just, you might say, higher frequency language than verbal language. You might say it's somewhere between telepathy and whatever spoken language. And it kind of helps to bypass that neurological process. So. Yep. All right, guys, I got to run. Lots of love, everybody. Thank you for staying later, Sharon. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Lots of love. Bye.